Patch Live on Saturday, 31st July with your hosts AJ Paredes and Eric Baglig as we travel virtually to one of the richest country in the world, Kingdom of Qatar. Join us in Patch as we feature the APC story of engineer Asuncion Ventura Lopez with her case study, Contractor's Claim Due to Suspension. See you on Saturday, 3 p.m. Manila Time, 10 a.m. Qatar.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. I'm Arlene Joy Paredes, or AJ, the current president of PICQS Singapore chapter, and I'm excited to be here once again to be your host for our seventh session of Patch. Patch is PICQS APC Talks channel aiming to provide overviews about chartered and certified professionals APC journey, PICQS structured trainings, and every quantity surveyor's road to becoming QS professionals to maximize their career potential. So, for those who are not so familiar with PICQS, Philippine Institute of Certified Quantity Surveyors is an all Filipino QS organization with a global reach. So, in a span of a decade, PICQS has formed 12 chapters around the globe in Philippines, UK, UAE, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain, KSA, North America, Singapore, New Zealand, Australia, and our most recent form chapter, BIM Indo-China. So our members are mostly QS trained engineers, architects, and other allied profession practicing the quantity surveying globally, and we have structured trainings to patch up the required competencies towards exponential career growth. It is unfortunate, though, that for today our co-host Eric Bucklig is still not able to make it. Eric, we are all hoping for your speedy recovery and hope to see you in our next patch session. Okay, so for this afternoon, I'm counting on all of you to be my co-hosts. Join me in asking questions to our featured guest who will be sharing about her APC journey and case study entitled Contractor's Claim Due to Suspension. Okay, so before we move on and introduce formally our featured guest for this afternoon, allow me, I would like to invite all of you to all of the upcoming PAQS 24th Congress this November. So for these details, please watch the video clip.
Pacific, are you ready? As Philippine Institute of Certified Quantity Surveyors of PICQS hosts PAQS 2021 24th Congress, we are pleased to announce that registration is open, and due to strong public demand, delegates now have options to attend the Congress in person or via digital access. Take part in the most awaited global event of QS practitioners around the world, including members of distinct and world-renowned QS bodies. Registration fees are posted on your screens, and for face-to-face attendees, fees are inclusive of the welcome gala dinner, 2-day conference with tea breaks and lunch, and the technical visits with transportation. For all associated events, please visit the official website paqs2021.com. See you!
Okay, so our featured guest for this afternoon is a graduate of the Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering in Far Eastern University, Manila, and gained her Master of Laws degree in Construction Law and Arbitration in Robert Gordon University, Aberdeen, in UK. So she is a registered professional engineer in the Philippines and in Qatar. She is also a chartered quantity surveyor, a member of RICS, and a corporate member of PICQS. With over 25 years of professional experience as a civil engineer, quantity surveyor, and contracts administrator, she has worked on a range of infrastructure projects and building projects with strong experience on assessment of variations, claims, and disputes, as well as contractual documentation and contract Administration. Okay, she is also an experienced trainer for PICQS Structured Training Program, a part-time lecturer for Philippine Institute of Built Environment or PIBE, and a CPD speaker for various seminars and events, and also serves as the current PICQS president for Qatar chapter. So without further ado, let me welcome on our virtual studio and our virtual stage Engineer Asuncion Ventura Lopez. Okay, hi. Hi, Press Azon.
Hello. Hello, Press AJ. Good morning from Doha, Qatar.
Okay.
So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all PICQS members and viewers of Patch from other parts of the world. So, I hope I could inspire more PICQS members to step forward as APC candidates through this Patch with PICQS session. And of course, thank you, Press AJ, for inviting me here. And I hope you would not grill me as hot as the actual APC interview.
I won't. And definitely a lot of people will be inspired with your APC journey and with your APC story. So, how is it going in Qatar?
We are now at the peak of the summer.
Oh, so it's very
It's
hot.
very hard. Yeah, it's very hot here now,
Okay.
especially
So,
at midday.
are you on a lockdown or are you working from home or how is the
No,
difference?
no, no. We never experienced working from home. But no, actually, we are now supposed to be, we are to be in opening in of phase 4, but I think it was delayed until, I don't know, I think mid of August or until further notice. But we're not in lockdown.
That's good to hear. I mean, in our case, we're also not in lockdown, but we're having phase 2A, wherein we're not allowed to dine out. So we have to eat at home at all
Mm.
times. But let's hope for a better tomorrow and hopefully we can all go home in time for the PAQS 2021. I believe you're also
Hoping for
attending.
that, of course.
I am looking forward to November for this
Yeah.
PAQS 2021. Yeah. So thank you very much again for being with me here. It's very unfortunate that Eric cannot make it, but let us proceed and let us have some talks about your career. Okay. So why don't we talk about your career journey? How did your QS journey started? How did you start me after your graduation from FEU?
After graduation, of course, I took the board exam review, and then immediately after passing the PRC board exam, I had my first job, which is as a project coordinator from in a small subcontracting company. And then at that time, I lived in Bulacan, and our office was in Binondo, Manila. And
Oh.
the projects I was involved with are housing projects that are located in the south, which is Laguna and Cavite. So, although I don't visit the project sites every day, but when I do, I'm literally traveling from north to south and back for about, at the worst, 18 hours. And of course, in exchange of that, I was only receiving a measly salary.
Guess that's
um,
how we all started.
Yes. So because of that, I tried to apply for a new and better opportunity, and that was the time how my QS career had started. I joined WT Partnership, which was a foreign cost consultant in the Philippines, and I started as a trainee quantity surveyor until I become or promoted to a quantity surveyor position.
Wow.
So when I joined WT at that time, I really have no idea on what quantity surveyor is. All that I know was I will work in the office and not at project sites, and I will prepare construction cost estimates.
Okay.
And then one of my colleagues, he was taking a distance learning QS course from CEM in the UK. And my guess, probably it was a PG diploma in quantity surveyor, although at that time I really do not know the details of it. So it appears to me that he took it because he was inspired by a lady QS who also studied in CEM, and he said that this first Filipino chartered QS, he was very passionate in sharing his ideas about this lady's success, and at the same time he was encouraging me to join him in taking the same path. But due to financial matters, I was not able to enroll it, in CEM at that time. Um, I am not capable to finance any further studies.
Mhm. But you already heard about the news that there's a Filipina QS who took the CEM, who studied in CEM on this PG postgraduate diploma
Diploma.
on
Okay.
QS. Okay, so when you entered WT, the passion of being a quantity surveyor was already kicked in. So you were passionate about going all the way and then being a chartered professional after
Yeah.
hearing about this. So does that move you to take the APC?
Actually, I first met this lady QS who happened to be Chair Julie. I met, yes, that was after how many decades? Because I first met Chair Julie during the PICQS Qatar Chapter Second General Assembly, and that was around April 2012. She delivered the introduction to professional experience route of RICS.
Mm-mm.
APC. It was a newly introduced route at that time. I was motivated and got excited really in learning that there was a new route that was open for professionals with QS experiences but may have no QS degree.
Oh.
So after that presentation, I immediately did the first step, which was the submission of CV to RICS and informing, I think that was Resi at that time, that I would like to take the APC through PER. So, however, at that time, due to the surge of applications that was received by RICS decided to suspend this PER, and they said they will be further reviewing the PR assessment process.
Wow. Okay. So I guess after the surge, they found that a lot of Filipinos are going through the through the influence of the first lady QS who happened to be Chair Julie.
Dear Julie, yes, that's true.
Okay. So that time you were already a PICQS member.
At that time, yes, I only joined. I was not part of the founding members because only learned PICQS. I think I can't remember when did they launch the PICQS, but I joined PICQS in December 2011. So it is in the same year. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it's just a few months
Um,
delayed only.
I guess your PICQS membership number is about 200 something.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so why don't, since we have tackled about PICQS, let's check out the next part of next segment for this session. Okay, so the PICQS role in your APC journey. So how would you describe the role of PICQS? I mean, you've already encountered Chair Julie in the during the General Assembly. You're amazed, but that there's a PR route for you to enhance your potential as a quantity surveyor and become the professional QS. So what else
Mhm.
do you think was the contribution of being a PICQS member?
Following that presentation, I joined the first batch of P3T in Qatar. The P3T batch one was launched on January 2013, and in the first batch, it happened that the trainers were also the trainees, and most of us had butterflies in our stomachs during our first experiences as presenters in front of the group of the fellow trainees.
Mhm.
So I remember at that time there was one trainer who had jokingly reminded us be sure to call 999 and get her health card from her wallet in the bag in case she would collapse during the presentation.
Okay. Wow, that was funny, but it's really challenging. I can imagine like how you guys are dealing with it. I heard that there are about 20 to 30 participants for this batch, and then
Yes, yes.
you were doing some sort of body training, interaction. You will be given a topic, and then you will
Mm-hmm.
be researching about it, and you will present it to the body for everybody to learn. And it
Yes,
has
true.
to be aligned with what we think should be enough to feed the competencies that we are longing for, to feed them, you mean the structured training, and go through it. So what was the
Mm-hmm.
topic that was handed over to you?
Because it is everyone is afraid of coming forward. So the first topic was assigned to the only a chartered member of PICQS at that time. It was Raymond. Actually, Raymond attained his chartership on his own, and then later on to support the Filipino QSS,
Wow.
he accepted and joined the PICQS to support us, which is the next batch of candidates. So the first topic is at that time for P3T is bonds and insurances. So I was buddy of Raymond. He split the topic. He took the insurance topic and he assigned the bonds to me.
Wow, okay, but I can imagine the hurdles that you had to go through to be able to present it to the body, and get this knowledge coming in every all the other topics that were discussed during that batch. Okay, and then after that, you mentioned that after P3T you had to go through POP2 already
Oh yes, at that
because of
time,
the
the
need.
PICQS structured training is not properly structured yet. So supposed to be after P3T, the next step is POP1. However, at that time, POP1 materials is not yet, I think, prepared. It's not yet, it's still being prepared. And the materials available was the POP2. So we conducted POP2 immediately after P3T. So we never experienced attending POP1. And I remember we had POP2, and at the same time, we are also conducting an informal GAMP.
Uh-huh. Okay. So it was you were learning all together at the same time, and then you were uh, specifically the structured training is also developed through experience. I mean, after all the
Yes,
things that you had to go through, the PAP 1 and GAMP is now well structured and is being attended by hundreds of participants globally. So
for now,
were you able
yes.
to foresee that one when you were still starting this POP 1, this P3T in Qatar?
No, no, no. We didn't. At that time, we are struggling with the materials because we have
Mhm.
to, for example, in P3T, we have to wait for the materials to be released by UAE. For example, UAE will conduct session number 2 today. So after they deliver it, they will send the materials to us, and then the following week we will deliver the session 2. So we're like 1 month delayed from UAE just because we are waiting for their materials.
But looks like when all of you got past the APC, you now have your own APC stories. It doesn't look
Mm.
like everybody was behind. It was just everything was on time, right? Okay. And then what after these all these hurdles that you were able to surpass, these challenges, I noticed that you have been very active in rendering service to PICQS. You have conducted trainings also, and you have headed a number of structured trainings in Qatar, also in the centralized um,
Mhm.
structured training committee. So, can you tell us more about it?
In September 2015, the first global is the first global. I said global because it train the trainers training that was launched by Chair Julie. So each chapter was invited to send at least one representative in UAE to attend these train the trainers. It was conducted by an external trainer. And then, without giving any other choice, I was sent to represent the Qatar chapter. And then later on, I realized when I came back from UAE, I had to become the trainer of the succeeding structure trainers in Qatar. So since then, I became passionate of conducting the trainings, CPDs, and it motivated me to learn more and gain more knowledge, including, of course, including gaining weight with.
Okay, I'm with you on that.
But seriously, I believe that I conducted the five. I remember it's from 2015 to 2019. I conducted five train the trainers in
Wow.
Qatar, and basically it includes all trainers, all structured trainers that is based in Qatar. I believe that in every training of CPD or training or CPD that I will attend, I would not be able to remember all the information that would be discussed. But but retaining at least one learning from each training or from each CPD event would surely help me to gain some additional knowledge that may help me to bloom into an amazing something in the future.
Yes, I agree. Actually, it's when you do it that you get to remember it the most. So, yes, I'm with you to encourage everyone that after taking the structured trainings, try and share it, share the knowledge, and also encourage your co-members to, become trainers as well, because this
Mhm.
is also a ground for us to, hone our presentation skills and also contribute to the learning society, to PICQS members in particular, and I am hands up with the passion that you have rendered and for training these trainers. The TTT, or train the trainers program, is also very essential because as you spread the word and you train people to become trainers themselves, then they will also do the same and then give back to PICQS and share their knowledge, because we can never do it alone. Okay, so
Yes,
thank you
true.
for your passion and thank you for your service to PICQS. So at this point, I think we are bound to go to the next part of our program, which is your. Okay, so we have a lot of budding professionals who would like to become QS professionals and pass the chartered or certified membership for the professional bodies like PICQS and RACS and AIQS, NZIQS. A lot of professional bodies are around. So let us now check and dissect the APC preparation that you have to go through before passing. What were the hurdles that you experienced? Apart from these challenging structured trainings, now you move on to the submission. So, how did you choose the topic for your case study?
How did I choose? I don't know. There. I think at that time, I was involved with many with like EOT claims. I was in the project has many claims. I think it includes suspension, prolongation, extension of time. So what I did at that time is I list all the claims that I had been involved with in the project. And then from there, I eliminated those that are I have a little involvement, and I didn't knew the topic by heart. So until I came up with the last two topics, which is this one, the suspension claim, and the one that I finally eliminated from my choice.
If I may ask, so what was the root of the suspension? What moved the suspension of the project or this particular activity?
The suspension is because of a high profile event that was sponsored by the government.
Oh, I see. So it's like government moving, not the legislation, but a government event.
No, no, no.
That's
There's a high profile government event. I think leave it until I share to you the
the case
overview
study.
of the project later as part of my presentation.
Okay, that gets exciting. Okay, so
Okay.
then we check back and talk about the preparation of APC. So you have had some mock interviews, and then the submission of documents at the time wasn't yet online, but it wasn't through ARC, right?
No, I can't
Direct
remember
mail.
the name. What was the name of? We call it APC passport, something. We call it APC
Oh.
passport. So it's a manual. You have to print the form. You had to fill up the form. But the submission form itself has the Word file. So we fill up
Oh.
those Word file, and then you have to print it. You have to sign it, scan and upload to the website of RICS.
Mm-hmm. And tell us about Mr. Raymond. So Mr. Raymond was, I think, the one who is like your mentor all through your APC journey because he was with you during the structured training, and I think you also did some mock interviews with you for this.
Yes, Raymond is one of the mentors who inspired me to proceed with this. He gave me some comments uh, about my case study, and he is also one of the panels when they what is this conducted the grand mock interview here in Qatar. Actually, I'm really extremely thankful to PICQS as a whole. First, for the level 1 knowledge that I gained from the P3T training, which is the first. And then, of course, to the APC sample questions, which was provided to us by the team in UAE, to fellow members and other APC candidates who supports each other. We supported each other. We
Mm-hmm.
were five at that time who sit for APC at the same time. And the exchange of knowledge and motivation that we are giving to each other. And of course, here's the unwavering support from our then Qatar chapter president, Emerson Serrato.
Wow.
He's the one arranging and coordinating through UAE, arranging all the online and physical
Mm-hmm.
mock interviews. And the mock interview, the Grand Mock here was the chairman of my Grand Mock was Raymond. But before the Grand Mock, we had a face-to-face mock interviews with Badette, with Emerson, with Jesse, and then I had a online mock interview from UAE from Mr. Joseph Magramo and Lani Satuito. So I was scheduled for mock interview, but to Miss Julie. However, as I was praying, I hope I will not be contacted by Miss Julie. So luckily, at that time, my mock interview with Julie did not push through.
I don't think I also I think I would be very nervous if Chair Julie would be doing a mock interview on me later on. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
but you are also working at that time. How do you manage to go through these mock interviews and exchange with the fellow candidates?
Yes, I was I was working at that time, and I am enrolled for my LLM at that time.
Oh.
So after after office hours, we go directly to what is this, to Rodel's house, and then we all gather there. But that was happened for almost 1 month before we sit for interview. I think that started since we submitted our documents for application for final assessment in to RICS, hoping that it will pass.
Hoping that it will pass the preliminary, and it did.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it did.
But it was
But
really tough.
I have so many hurdles actually in going through that. My first submission failed. It was in September 2015. I think the submission deadline was around September 14, and on September 12, wherein my documents are not yet ready, I was in UAE attending this train the trainers.
Okay. So, but then, it's always the journey that gets the feeling of fulfillment afterwards. After you have achieved and reached the finish line, the how it was like passing the board exam. I think the feeling is
Yes,
about the same, or even beyond
I
passing the
think
board
it's more.
exam,
Yeah,
because the preparation that you had to go through, and you have to balance between the work requirements or your work responsibility and your eagerness, your desire to complete this APC journey. Wow, I can imagine. Okay, and it's really fortunate for us who, now that PICQS have these structured trainings in place, all we have to do is attend, and then bear it in mind and in our hearts, and go through a series of mock interviews, and then finish our case study, and then have somebody read it and then criticize or go through it and make some comments and develop it. So this is where PICQS is really coming in the
yeah,
APC
yeah.
journey. And it's really important because I don't think somebody can go through it alone. Or I can imagine Mr. Raymond's how he was able to go through it on his own, and his eagerness to help other people. I think that's what fueled it.
Yeah,
Whatever the challenges he experienced,
he
he
experienced.
yes, he wants to share and then help all those who, to make it possible, that to make them realize that it's achievable. So shout out to Mr. Raymond and to the rest of the people who have did the mock interview with you and all this. So how long did you prepare for your APC?
If I will count from the time that I attended the P3T, and then initially I'm planning to take the PER, but oh, I forgot that story. And then I took the adaptation course, which was supposed to be 10 months, but was dragged to 2 year to two
Uh-huh.
year course. And then
Uh-huh.
I started 2013, and then I passed in 2016. So overall, if I will count that, overall preparation took me 3 years.
Wow, 3 years. Okay. Uh yes. So I was trying to count when I enrolled in the APC, and my position now where I am. So it's like a
About
NASCAR.
this 2 year adaptation course, allow me to share this,
Yes, go ahead.
because initially I followed I was motivated by Chair Julie's PER presentation. So I'm now
Mm.
looking to going through this PER. However, the PER was suspended, and I have no idea when it will be reopened. So I do not want to lose my enthusiasm for taking the APC at that time. So upon receiving recommendation, I decided to take a QS course. Initially, I applied for uh, PG diploma in QS. Unfortunately, I was not accepted because the 5 year BSc engineering degree in the Philippines was not recognized as a bachelor degree in the UK.
Oh.
So with the help of RICS, who issued me a sort of like confirmation letter that they are at the time qualified to take both PER and adaptation route, I presented it to the university, and luckily I was accepted for this 10-month adaptation course.
Wow. Okay.
So as I've said, however, this 10-month course was dragged for 2 long years. I
Mm-hmm.
was pretty new with taking an international studies and the module courseworks with submission deadlines and examination that always coincides with our quarterly vacations in the Philippines. So at the end, I failed the final examination in construction law module. So, continue to move on, I re-enrolled and mastered the module for another 10 months. So I got confused again because while waiting, I think, for the result of my second 10-month course, I got an email from RICS informing me that PER has now reopened, and they are asking me to give the confirmation if I would like to proceed. So I got confused. I even emailed Chair Julie and asking for an advice if I will pursue through PER or through adaptation. I remember she recommended me to pursue the PER. However, I ended up taking the adaptation route.
Wow. But I admire the persistence that you have. Whatever hurdles or whatever you think was the unfortunate events that happened through your journey, you still pushed through, and it didn't stop you. After
Yeah,
you mentioned that there was this difficulty, and then with your bachelor's degree not being recognized in the UK, you still found some avenues wherein you would
yeah,
how you want to pursue the desire to become the professional that you are now is there. And it's ironic, failing the construction law module led you to becoming or finishing the masters in law in,
yeah.
in construction law.
I returned with a vengeance.
Yes. So it's like every challenge that you've encountered has moved you to become stronger, and has challenged you even more to become a better version of yourself. And that's something that I admire the most about your persistence. Thank Congratulations, and thank you for sharing that story. I'm having goosebumps. Okay. So let us try and check your APC preparation, the presentation itself. You are
Okay.
required to do a 10-minute presentation. So how did you manage? I mean, the construction industry, the problem itself, the key issues, how are you able to pack it in 10-minute presentation and then ace the interview?
Oh, there's a story in that. We were in a group we were in a group study with, and then here is Celso, who is motivating and forcing me. Azon, tomorrow we will practice our 10-minute presentation because we already received the confirmation that
Uh-oh.
we will be sitting in the next 3 weeks. So he
Wow.
said, tomorrow you have to present. You have to draft your 10-minute presentation and present it to us tomorrow. So that is how he forced me to. So that night I followed him and I drafted my 10-minute presentation, and then the next day I delivered it to them. But since I drafted it, I have my código while presenting it to them first time. However, after that, I kept on presenting in front of my husband, my son, and during office hours, every time we have finished our lunch, I will conduct the 10-minute presentation in front of my office mates who also happen to be the Filipino quantity surveyors.
Wow. Okay. It's like a community support towards
Yeah.
finishing your APC journey. So how is the timeline for the 10 minute? How would you advise us? Like if we're going to make the 10-minute presentation, what is the
Um, I was
maximum?
based on recommendation or advice that I received at that time. When you deliver the 10-minute presentation, you make sure that it must not go beyond the 10 minute. Otherwise, uh, you will be because when you are not finished and then the assessor stopped you without completing your presentation, it's already, your motivation is already down. So you have to attain a minimum of at least 8.5 minutes, but do not go beyond the 10 minutes. So maybe 8.5 to 9.5 is the best. So when the chairman says that at that time it's a face to face, so when they said that when I raise my pencil, that means that you have to wrap up. You have 30 seconds to wrap up. But at that
Wow.
time, I brought my own timer, and before the start of presentation, I asked the permission of the assessors. Can I also have my timer in front of me, just to to be
Remind
alert
yourself.
of the or to remind myself of the time.
Wow. So it really takes a lot of practice for you to be able to squeeze it in the 10-minute timeline. And at that time, you're not, it's face to face. So you cannot have some sort of a código or when you do the presentation.
Oh, the
You have to memorize
Código.
by heart.
Before I thought Código is or notes is not allowed, and then
POV, yeah.
there's one assessor who a mentor who advised me that no, you can bring like 2 to 3 pieces of one
Index
fourth
card.
index card, and you
Oh.
just put bullet points there. At least you would remember the flow and what to discuss next. So I
Oh.
had, I think, 3 pieces of index cards there with the bullet points, and really it helped me because I think at the 3/4 part of my presentation, like my mind flown. So I have no idea what's the next. So I look at my index card and then proceeded.
Yeah, because the presentation slides are facing them, right? So you would,
No, I didn't use any presentation
I didn't
slides.
use any
Mm,
presentation slides.
yeah, initially because all my group study group mates are preparing their slides. So I said, "Do I really need it?" So I prepared. And then when I presented to one mentor, and he said, "You seem to be distracted with your own presentation materials." And then he said, "Can you set that aside and present it to me?" So I took out the slides, or the what is that, the A3 paper, the that triangular presentation material. So I set it aside and then I just presented it on my own. And he said, "You are better without the material." So I did not use it in the actual interview.
Wow, that's something new to hear. Okay, but okay, I believe everybody's excited to see and witness the actual APC presentation that you've had, or the
Okay.
presentation. Now you've made the presentation for our viewers. So
Mm-hmm.
here you go. Okay, so I'm leaving you the floor. The floor is yours. Press as on, and you may
Wait,
now
I
present
have
your.
to I have to share my screen first. Okay.
You can now present your case study. Yeah.
Can you now see my screen?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So this case study deals with the contractor's claim for suspension cost arising from the engineer's instruction to temporarily suspend part of the works. So the project name is strictly confidential, so I will not tell it to you. But let's proceed with the details of the project to give you some overview. The contract was procured through single source negotiation. So what does it mean? In single source, it means that there may be multiple options available. However, there was a decision to contract with only one contractor. So this usually happens when the employer has a long-term partnership with the contractor, and so it was decided to be negotiated with that single source. So
Oh.
the form of contract is the FIDIC General Conditions of Contract for Plant and Design, Build 1999 edition, or otherwise known as the Yellow Book. our contract was amended by the particular conditions. And same with the terminologies under FIDIC, the parties to the contract are employer and contractor. So the original contract period is 975 days. At that time, we have an approved EOT or extension of time for completion number one, which is 496 days.
Wow.
Um, there was a contractor's EOT claim number two, which was under review at that time of my submission. So the assessment of contractors' claim for this further extension of time for completion and the associated time-related costs was dealt with as a separate issue, and I declared that it is not part of my case study.
Okay.
Okay, so the background of the issues. First, the employer was requested by the government to ensure that there will be no ongoing construction works around the area of the project during a high-profile event. So in the mid part of that year, I will not mention what specific year was that, the contractor was advised that this high-profile event would be held at any time in the coming months. So the contractor's progress at that time indicated that they would fail to meet the time for completion, which is the date specified in the contract. So, at the third quarter of that year, the contractor admitted to us that the works around the area could not be completed prior to the date of that high-profile event, which was expected to be held at the last quarter of the same year. So, meetings had been conducted on high levels, and as part of the solution, the employer and the contractor agreed that the temporary works would be provided in order to conceal the ongoing construction works at the external area of the project, making it appear that the project is complete, and in that way it will ensure that the government's request would be properly accommodated. So one day at the last quarter of the year, immediately after the employer received an advice from the government, an engineer's instruction was issued to the contractor, instructing him to temporarily suspend the works effective on the next day for a certain period of days. So from then, moving forward, the contractor submitted a claim for reimbursement of all the costs that was incurred and associated with the suspension of the works as a result of the engineer's instruction that was issued. So my role, I was tasked to establish the contractor's entitlement and provide a recommendation so that the engineer could try to agree with the contractor, or he can make a fair determination. So let us now analyze the contractor's claim. First, the suspension of the works was issued in accordance with the amended subclause 8.8, which is the suspension of the works, with the specific requirements to compensate the contractor under subclause 8.9, which is consequences of suspension. And then the clause states that if the contractor shall give notice to the engineer and shall be entitled to payment of any such cost that is subject to subclause 20.1, which is the contractor's claim. So, however, the contractor failed to comply with the notice provision under subclause 20.1, which states that a valid claim may be deemed invalid and rejected on the basis of failure to comply with the procedural requirements stated under subclause 20.1. Um, Next. So, in conducting an in-depth review of the contractor's entitlement for payment for the incurred costs that he is claiming, so these are the three options that I have critically analyzed. So, let's discuss this one by one. First is option one, that is to disapprove the claim mainly due to the contractor's failure to comply with the notice provision of the contract. So, subclause 20.1 of the conditions of contract, it expressly states that the contractor's failure in giving notices within the prescribed period of 28 days shall waive the contractor's entitlement to additional payment, and the employer shall be discharged from all liabilities in connection with this claim. So my reasons for considering option one is first, the clause clearly specifies the procedures which the contractor must follow in pursuing a claim. So wherein the contractor's obligation must start by giving this notice of his intention to claim. And failure to do so will deprive him of any entitlement to additional payment. So it was very clear under the contract. The contractor's notice of claim is highly essential to establish his entitlements. So, if that is the reason for considering the option, what are my reasons for eliminating this option one? The removal of the contractor's entitlements due to the failure in giving a notice is a matter which may be viewed dependent on the applicable law. So in this case, wherein the employer is fully aware that the instruction may cause additional cost to the project, he already knows that since the beginning, the time bar provision may not be fully relied upon in the context of acting in good faith. Qatar law has an article relating to the good faith. And if this claim will progress to a dispute and later be referred to arbitration or litigation, this applicable law relating to good faith may be considered. Take note that the related article of the law was also quoted and referred by the contractor in the submission of its claim. So the loss, second is the loss to the contractor by the disapproval of the claim may not be proportionate to the loss suffered by the employer, if any. So there's also a question, what is the loss that may have suffered by the employer as a result of the non-compliance with this notice provision of the contract? And third, one of the major issues of the project was taken and was already being reviewed by the Dispute Adjudication Board, or DAB. So the contractor has a current trend at that time of taking most unresolved issues to DAB, which may further be pursued up to arbitration or litigation later, which really happened after after a year, I think so. So it is most likely that by adopting this option, a dispute will arise and will subsequently entail additional time and cost to the project. So, having regard to all those reasons that I have mentioned, I recommended that this option of disapproving the claim, mainly due to time bar provision in the contract, is not the best course of action. Then we have option two. Option two is to consider the validity of the claim, but take into consideration how the late submission or lack of information had prejudiced the proper investigation of the claim. So what is my reasons for considering this option? The final paragraph of subclause 20.1, which it has 9 paragraphs in all, expressly provides that a failure to comply with subclause 20.1 shall be taken into account in respect of any claim that is made by the contractor. So in this case, the contractor's initial submission was only a high level and indicative cause, which really cannot be verified with supporting documents, and this really prevented the proper assessment of the contractor's entitlement to potential additional payment. However, the contractor submitted the supporting particulars later, which is 6 months after the suspension period. Now, the reasons for eliminating option two, so while there was a provision that I mentioned in consideration of option two to take into account the contractor's failure within the prescribed time in this assessment of the claim, it was really difficult to quantify and establish the amount of damages to employer. So the loss to the employer from this failure of the contractor of notification may arguably be said to be nil or almost equivalent to zero, as the employer is well aware of the given instruction. And we were telling the client that, or the employer that, it would be very difficult to substantiate any amounts that we will present as a loss of the employer. So this situation might lead to differences of opinion, disagreement, and potential dispute that will not assist, of course, in the proper assessment of the contractor's legitimate entitlement. So, as I am keeping the my first recommendation to take in consideration that a prevention of further disputes is what was in my mind, so that no further disputes will arise within the project. I did not recommend option 2 as a course of action. Now, moving on to option 3, which is accepting the principle of the claim and then assessing the contractor's entitlement for the expenditure that was reasonably incurred. So, what are my reasons for considering this option? First, the suspension of the works was deemed not the responsibility of the contractor. The suspension was initiated by the employer in compliance with the government's request. So, notwithstanding the failure of the contractor to provide that notice and the particulars in a timely manner, the employer initiated the suspension of works in compliance with the government's request for a high profile event. Therefore, the suspension of the works that was instructed by the engineer is a change in circumstances that should entitle the contractor for a fair compensation. And I also mentioned that one of the intentions of the notice provision under subclause 20.1 is to provide sufficient time and opportunity for the employer to mitigate an event that might have a time or cost implication to the project. So in this case, the employer was well aware of his actions and potential implication of suspending the works even months before, which is maybe from the beginning of the year. Then, oh, I think so. That's the last slide. So for these three reasons, I recommended that it is fair and reasonable to compensate the contractor for the actual expenditure that was incurred due to suspension. When I say actual expenditure, the cost must be properly substantiated by the contractor. So the cost assessment part of this cost was my key issue number 2. However, due to time constraints in this patch session, I did not include this key issue number 2 in my presentation.
I think we will need to have another patch session to discuss the quantum. Okay, it was a really good and exciting event in your the time when you have discovered this key issue. In every construction project, always a dispute to me is a learning curve. No, once you have this type of situation on hand and you would be able to and you are asked by your employer to provide me options so I can review and assess where which item or which path do we go to. And then the next will be approving your entitlement. I mean, as a contractor, it is hard. One, if you do not have enough records. Two is on how you're going to justify that you're really entitled to cost and time. So time is usually being granted in an easier manner compared to the cost implication on any item that you would like to claim. So yes, and of course, these condition precedents that we are into, the notices is really very important, especially the contract calls for it. So in every event, you need to provide proper notices to your contract or to your employer if you intend to claim. But
Yeah.
I was wondering, with this thing or the key issues that have occurred, did they take option three among these three options that you have presented to them?
Yes, yes, they did. Because at that time, we are really want to reduce the number of claims that may escalate to disputes.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I have mentioned, we already have one case that is already ongoing on the DAB, and there's another second case that is being prepared in the DAB. This my case study is part of a consolidated claims that is to being prepared for case number three.
So it's like a global claim already i- coming up.
Yes, yes,
Mhm. They
yes.
have provided a global claim.
So we are trying to close as much as possible so that there will be no further disputes that would escalate.
Okay. But then I think during the course of your presentation, you have mentioned that there is already a is it a litigation ongoing,
No,
or was it prevented?
after the case number one was decided by DUB, the contractor was not happy with the result, so he escalated it
Oh,
to arbitration
so it's
in the
still ongoing.
ICC. No, later on,
Concluded
they
already.
decided to they decided to agree.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's I think it's good to know that it has all been
It's now
settled.
a closed contract. Yes,
Mm.
everything. The
Close
final
contract.
account has now been closed. All issues has been settled because everything, as usual, everything can be negotiated.
Yes. Okay. So before we proceed to the Q&A or the APC questions, let us pause for a break from our and see the sponsors for our PAQS 2021.
PICQS would like to thank Philippine Constructors Association Incorporated or PCA for being PICQS supporting affiliate partner in hosting the Pacific Association of Quantity Surveyors or PAQS 2021 Congress. More than 70 years after it was established, PCA is a partner for nation building, a leading exemplar for the industry here and abroad, a catalyst for change, and an organization that embodies excellence and knows that prestige comes with performance. Thank you, PCA, and see you in PAQS 2021 Congress. RIB Software is a pioneering enterprise committed to driving innovation and technological advances in the construction and real estate industries. I2 CostX by RIB is being used in over 90 countries around the world, and it is a complete estimating solution with 2D takeoff, 5D beam support, integrated workbooks, and customizable reports, all in one program. Become faster, smarter, and more accurate today with I2 CostX.
Okay, there we go. And then I would like to thank our supporters who are watching and they have commented. Miss Romaline Lorenzo, I'm watching here from Doha, Qatar. Oh, good job, Azon and PICQS. We are proud of you. Wow.
Well,
Thank you so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Miss Roma. Oh, well, good job to the patch PICQS. Good job as always. Thank you. Thank you for your support and thank you for watching patch. Ayan. You have inspired a lot today. We am seeing 12,000 viewers at the moment. Okay, so let's move on to the next part, which is your APC questions and those that are asked of you and how you have answered them. Okay. So at the time after you have presented, how were you? Was it a relief or did you feel even more nervous thinking what they are going to ask after you have done the presentation?
No, I forgot how to become nervous.
Wow, that's great to know. That means you have after you have presented, you were very confident and you have all you were well prepared. Then you know the your case study by heart. That's why you didn't feel nervous at all. Okay, so for the first question in your APC, this was what was asked. What do you mean by contra preferentum?
Okay, this is a level one question. It it was not my first it was not the first question I received. I received it at least maybe at least halfway already of the interview. It may seem to be very simple. However, I failed to properly construct a suitable answer in my mind. So I decided to pass on this question. So I did not answer this question during the interview. When we were practicing the Q&A during the group sessions, we always make a joke that the answer that we have mastered is how to confidently say that, oh, I know and I have learned it. However, I currently forgot the exact answer. So if you could allow me to get back to you on this question, please. So I think I confidently practice this, and I confidently replied to the APC assessor that yeah, if I can get back to this question. So the APC panel do not expect that a candidate that knows everything or know all candidates. So the
Mhm.
important is for you to be able to show your confidence and professionalism as if you are in front of the client. So in front of the client, you may not know all the information, but you have to tell them that, oh, I have it in my office, in my in my record, but I will get back to you on that. But anyway, for this pod session, going back to your question, I can now confidently answer this. Okay, contra proferentum rule is actually it is a legal doctrine in the contract law, where any clause that are considered to be ambiguous or vague should be interpreted against the interest of the party who either drafted it, who introduced it, or who requested for the clause to be included in the contract.
Yes. So it also applies to the, to the meeting minutes, right? Whoever drafted the meeting minutes, if in
Mm-hmm.
case it will be presented in the court, then it can be, the onus that has to be, it will be lied on the, on the
In
one who
favor of the other
the
party.
one who didn't draft it. It will be in favor to the one who didn't draft the minutes or the contract. Mm. Okay, so that's another term for all of us who have not yet experienced or who have not come across the contra proferentum um,
Rule.
term. Ayan. And then we move on to the next question. And also the tip we're in, if you think you have to conceptualize or you still have to gather your thoughts, the best way to answer is I know the answer, but it's at the back of my mind. Can I? Okay, that's a very good tip. So next question now is, okay, how do you assess materials on site? This is materials on site.
No, the question I received was assessment of payments for materials off-site.
Off-site. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay. So I
off-site.
think you have
Yeah,
drafted.
it's off-site.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking if it's materials on-site, then basically it will follow whether it has it been installed or not. Because sometimes your
Um,
contract would say it is a supply and install contract. So materials on site will be paid only once it has been installed. So in that case, your APC question is how do you assess payment for materials off site? Okay.
yes, yeah, payments for materials offsite. So this was a level 2 question. So I answered it directly. I would check the contract for provisions allowing for payment of materials offsite. If it is allowed, then I will follow the procedures that is stated and check for compliance with the conditions that is set out in the contract. And these conditions may include things such as First, checking the financial status of the contractor to assess the likelihood of insolvency, because paying off for materials off-site can be beneficial to the contractor and to the project. However, the client may be put at risk. For
Yeah.
example, the contractor becomes insolvent and the items are not delivered at site, then even the payment has been made. So that's the risk that's involved there. So the material should be inspected and identified to ensure that this is properly is stored wherever it is, and that it is clearly marked with the contractor, with the client, and project details. And then check that the supplier's terms and conditions do not include a retention of a title clause. um, there must be a proof that the ownership of materials off-site is vested to the contractor or to the client as required before the payment is to be
Before.
made. So this may include a vesting certificate, that is to certify that the ownership has been passed on to the contractor or to the client as whatever the requirement is. Now, let me share to you that at this point, I was cut by the assessor, and another question was immediately thrown at me. So this was what I had observed during the APC interview. As long as the assessor was satisfied and know that you know the answer, or he had observed that you know the answer or the topic at heart, and you are confident in your answers on how you deliver it, he would cut you even if your answers are not yet complete, so that he could maximize the time of the assessment and to give you more questions. So, based on my experience, if you had spent so much time in explaining yourself or defending your answer, it is high likely that you are not giving a satisfactory answer to the assessor.
Oh. So what was the other question that was thrown after you have been trying to you have
It's
been
a
answering
different, already a different
entirely
topic,
different
or yes. So actually, at that time, what is this? I described the questions that come to me as like Armalites that being fired one after another.
Wow, that was tough. And we're only stating here, or we are only giving them a sample of
And
three
yeah,
questions.
assumption only. Yeah.
Overview. Okay. And yes, for payment of materials offsite, there will be risks, but it will actually help the subcontractor or the contractor to, for cash flow purposes. But we have to be mindful of the risk, the underlying risk. We may ask for bonds, right, before we,
Oh yeah,
um, the
actually
guarantee.
that's part of that's part of my, supposed to be part of my answer, but I was cut by the assessor. I should, at the end, I should be saying that an on-demand bond might be
Yes.
required up to the value of the off-site materials, and the value of that bond can be reduced as deliveries to the sites are being made.
Yes. Okay. So that's a good thing to note also for our practicing QS quantity surveyors around the globe, because this is a known fact that once, especially for example for steel. So the value of steel nowadays are being highly affected because of the mills around the globe. So you have China, you have Turkey, and then if you order for this, either you order for indent, and then you have a supply and fabricate deliver contract, uh, and the payment for materials offsite is not stated in the contract, your company or your employer might consider, giving some ex gratia in form of, or a supplementary agreement to be able to
Mm-hmm.
finance for this, materials offsite cost, because
Materials.
it's not a small amount, when they order for these
Yeah,
materials.
that's huge.
Mhm. And if, especially like after COVID, there has been a suspension, not suspension, but there has been a delay, major delay of works being executed on site. So their fabrication is being affected. Imagine if they don't have the materials off site in their contract clause, then the materials are standing by in their workshop and they don't get anything in return, right?
Yeah.
So yes, it's also a win-win situation, but you need to be careful in executing or paying for materials off-site. Okay, now let's move on to the third question in your APC, which is why did you consider your topic as a key issue?
Yes, actually, this question I have encountered it many times, even during the mock interviews. So I was able to confidently answer this that I consider this claim as a key issue because in simple contract administration, the contractor's claim can be easily rejected or for being non-compliant with the notice
Mm,
provision and other requirements of the contract.
yes.
However, due to the situation at that time where the project has already an ongoing case in the dispute adjudication board and there's a second case that being prepared, the options that I had presented were able to give due consideration and balance it was able to balance the whole context surrounding the claim. And of course, the consequences of denying the contractor's entitlement, ano ba yan?
Okay, would you like to
Ah,
have a glass of water?
yeah. Ah, the consequences of denying the contractor's entitlement due to the failure in providing the notice. So, in this way, my focus was to prevent the creation of further dispute in the project and aim for the settlement of the final account for the benefit of the project and both
Mm,
parties.
yes, an amicable settlement before it's too late.
Yeah.
In a certain project, I was able to go through with one subcontractor having four adjudications in place before we can finally, hopefully, finally have settled the contract. Because, but yes, it's really tough, but it's good to note that as quantity surveyors, we need to have that open mind and an active way. We need to be proactive in checking possible grounds for dispute and then settle it as early as possible before anything is being escalated to a form of an arbitration or litigation. Okay, and you did a very good job being the contract administrator for that project, I have to say. Okay, so I hope all is well, and let us try and have a break by looking at the word of our sponsors and an invitation for PAQS 2021.
Pacific, are you ready? As Philippine Institute of Certified Quantity Surveyors of PICQS hosts PAQS 2021 24th Congress, we are pleased to announce that registration is open and due to strong public demand, delegates now have options to attend the Congress in person or via digital access. Take part in the most awaited global event of QS practitioners around the world, including members of distinct and world-renowned QS bodies. Registration fees are posted on your screens, and for face-to-face attendees, fees are inclusive of the welcome gala dinner, two-day conference with tea breaks and lunch, and the technical visits with transportation. For all associated events, please visit the official website paqs2021.com. See you! PICQS is excited to have National University Philippines or NU as a supporting affiliate partner for the PAQS 24th Congress this November 2021. Founded in 1900 as Colegio Filipino, National University has been a dynamic institution committed to nation building and guided by the core values and characterized by the cultural heritage of dynamic Philippinism. Throughout the years, NU has been true to its mission to providing relevant, innovative, and accessible quality education and other development programs. Thank you, National University, and see you in PAQS 2021.
thank you very much for the sponsors of PAQS 2021. We have a few affiliate partners already, and I hope that to see you, press us on in the upcoming 24th Congress of PAQS this
Let's hope.
November. Let's
Yeah,
hope.
hoping
And
to see you also.
really, I'm looking forward to be able to attend
Mm.
the PAQS 2021. So time flies very fast. I'm very grateful for this 1 hour and a half of talk with about your APC journey, which is very, very inspiring. And kudos to PICQS and thank you PICQS for laying this structured training for all of us to to enter into and to venture into and eventually become QS professionals in the future. So before we formally close today's patch session, President, would you like to share your final statement or your advice to our APC candidates who are watching?
Before that, thank you, AJ, and thank you for having this match with PICQS. I'm sure it would really inspire and help many PICQS members and APC candidates.
Mm-hmm.
So, to all our members and to all our APC candidates, I would say that you are lucky to have the PICQS structured trainings and member supports that are now in place, and it's available to assist you in your APC journey. So let me repeat again. I say to assist you. This means
Mm-hmm.
not to prepare on your behalf. So if you have gone through the P3T, the POP1, and the GAM trainings, and still at this time you're not able to structure your submissions properly, it only means that you are not exerting enough effort to research, to learn, to prepare, and maybe you are more depending on others' inputs. So I encourage you to exert a little more effort to
Mm-hmm.
progress to the end. And having said that, let me conclude in saying my quote that there is only one motivation that you need to be successful in your APC journey, and that is desire. So you and I do not vary greatly in our knowledge and abilities, and however, our desire of becoming a chartered quantity surveyor may significantly differ. So, having said that, again, I am encouraging you all to challenge your own desire in achieving your high potential. So, good luck to all PICQS members and the APC candidates, and congratulations and thank you, the Patch and Press AJ.
Well, thank you very much for that very motivating words of wisdom. Indeed, we may have different levels of desire to attain this, and we have like a number of priorities on hand. So it's also a matter of prioritizing it. So
Yes.
as long as you want it, your goal to pursue and then attain this QS professional status, it will all depend on us. So let's work hard for it and let us continue learning more so we can share more and give back to the community. So thank you very much, Presazon, and I look forward to seeing more of you in PACQS activities. And thank you very much, everyone. Have a good weekend and watch this last part of the video and you can see her quotable quote. Thank you very much and have a good weekend.
Thank
Bye.
you. Keep safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Catch Patch live on Saturday, 31st July with your hosts AJ Paredes and Eric Baglig as we travel virtually to one of the richest country in the world, Kingdom of Qatar. Join us in Patch as we feature the APC story of engineer Asuncion Ventura Lopez with her case study, Contractor's Claim Due to Suspension. See you on Saturday, 3 p.m. Manila Time.